Hello, children. So I'm back with the next pages of the lesson. So let me get revised of the previous pages. So as we have seen that how he is just thanking out his the freedom fighters and even what kind of experience he had got in the prison also he just shared out, and in the further he is just explaining the things. And in civil and the human society, each man is able to fulfill those obligations according to his own inclination and ability. So it's nothing but the natural and a very tenderous and tenderness of the behavior, in the sense a kind of genuine behavior and abilities. But in a country like South Africa, it was almost impossible for a man of my birth and the color to fulfill both of those obligations. So he had that a kind that in a South African country, it was almost impossible for a man of my birth and color to fulfill both of these two obligations. So, country should not be get oriented with the cultural or the racial obligations over there, but whereas unfortunately South African country have already witnessed it. In South Africa, a man of color who attempted to live as a human being and was punished and isolated. So a fellow who was willing to live freely, not with the consideration of his racial things, but he just wanted to be free and live his life liberally. So that fellow is punished and isolated. It's nothing but where you will be kept alone in the dark room and kept single in a single way. So in South Africa, a man who tried to fulfill his duty to his people was inevitable. So the in South Africa, a man who tried for fulfilling his duty, so that person and which could not be avoidable, and he will be ripped from his family and his home and was forced to live in a life apart. So they will be just putting out a person who questions and who will be experiencing and getting up the freedom, a twilight existence of the secrecy and the rebellion. So they just got oppressed and suffered a very hard, in the sense that they just got and they just experienced the twilighting existence of the secrecy and the rebellion of the fight over there. So unless they raise their voice, nothing can be freed over. Unless you question, you never get the answer. That is what the policy we have to understand here. I did not in the beginning choose to place my people above my family, but in attempting to serve my people. So he did not have his family as his priority, though he loves his family very much, but he considered for attempting and serving up his people. I found that I was prevented from fulfilling my obligations as a son, brother, and a father and a husband. So he somewhere or in his corner of his heart, he just believed that somewhere he is not following up the things as being and playing a different role as son, brother, father, and husband. I was not born in a hunger to be free. So he was born not to be in a hunger free. I was born free in every way that I could know. So he just considered himself and the people of Africans who have got birth, not only him, but everybody have born free and live the way of the life what they are willing to live in. Free to run in the fields near my mother's hut, free to swim in the clear stream that ran through my village. See, this is what the freedom he is just talking about. On the democratic wise, yes, of course, they did not have any rights to get freed, but they had to be under the control of the whites. But he talks something about what is freeness and what are the things he enjoyed freely. Free to run in the fields of my mother's hut, near my mother's hut. So he is free to run over there and enjoy the nature. Free to swim in the stream and run through my village, and free to wander around and swim in the clear stream and run throughout the village. And free to roast meals under the stars and ride the broad backs of the slow moving bulls. And he's free to ride over the bulls and to have a roasted meals and have a ride of a boar that is broad backs of the slow moving bulls over there. As I obeyed my father and abided by the customs of my tribe. I was not troubled by the laws of man or God. So, though he was a little boy, he was not understanding the things even better. But the oppression was just going on and on in the country of South Africa. But he was very free, and he have a sense, and it's a kind of an illusion what he was in, that he was born up free and enjoying all the things and even the customs which was abided by his tribes too. But there was nobody there to get rejected, restrict him not to get be freed and enjoy, and not even a man, not even a god. And it was only when I began to learn that my boyhood freedom was an illusion. So as I already told you, a kind of the freedom what he was thinking, what he had in his thought and was enjoying, it was a kind of an illusion. Boyhood, it's nothing but during his childhood. Sometimes that appears to be real, but it is not a real. That is the meaning of the word illusion over there. When I discovered as a young man that my freedom had already been taken from me. So when he had just got aware of that, and when he has grown up a little, and he learned that the freedom of him has already been taken up by the other community people, that I began to hunger for it. So he was just very hungry for the freedom of him. At first, as a student, I wanted freedom only for myself. So, as being a student, he wanted only for himself the freedom. But the transitory freedoms of being able to stay out at night, read what I pleased, and go where I choose. So he just wanted to be freed for himself during his college days. But later on, his age old, he just got experience that no, the freedom should be there for everybody, and they should have a freedom to an level that to stay out and do whatever they need and read whatever they need to be, and choose the places wherever he wants to go up, and there should not be no restrictions to be held on. Then later, as a young man in the Johannesburg, I earned for the basic honorable freedoms of achieving my potential, of earning my keep, of marrying and having a family, the freedom not be obstructed in a lawful life. So he wanted a complete free of life where he can achieve up his potential and keep up his earnings and marry and have a beautiful family, and he should have a freedom not restricted way, but in a kind of lawful freedom he has to take over. So that is what the dream he had. And then, but I slowly saw that only was I not free, but my brothers and sisters were not free. I saw that it was not just my freedom that was curtailed. It's nothing but reduced, but the freedom of everyone who looked like I did. So it's not only the cutoff of my freedom and my freeness, but all my brothers and sisters. It might be his own siblings, or it might be the people of Africa. They were not at all free to move and do whatever they need. And so that he witnessed that the freedom was really curtailed, in the sense reduced. But the freedom of everyone who looked like I did. That is when I joined African National Congress, and that is when the hunger of my own freedom became the greater hunger for the freedom. So when he joined up the political party, that is African National Congress, that time he just saw and experienced what kind of hungerness they had. Not only him, the people of Africa who had the hunger of freedom. Yes, we are born freely, and we are just took over the life freely. But why don't we have a kind of freeness and a kind of liberty to enjoy the nature and even the democracy over there? It's my land. Why the other people have to come here and control us? So this is what the thought started up in the minds of Nelson Mandela and the other people. And of my people, It was his desire for the freedom of my people to live their lives with the dignity and self-respect. So that he wanted himself and his people to live up with a full of self-respect and in the dignity that animated my life, that transformed a frightened young man into a bold one. So this kind of an hunger freedom has transformed him into one of the serious freedom struggler. And when he was just a young man and to be a bold fellow that drove, it's nothing but a past tense of a drive, and who drove a law-abiding attorney. So he just doesn't need a temporary basis freedom, but he need the freedom to be attained permanently, but with lawfully, to become a criminal. So he just don't want to take up a step which really affects him and become a criminal over there, that turned a family loving husband into a man without a home. So if they take up a wrong step, definitely a man will be driven out and the family will be husbandless and the manless, but he don't want to do so. He just want to acquire and achieve the freedom with a kind of law abidiness and with full of loyalty. So that forced a life-loving man to live like a monk. So this kind of dedication, why he has represented it as a monk, because it tells about the dedication. I am no more virtuous or self-sacrificing the next man. So he says that very confidently that I'm no more virtuous or self-sacrificing than the next man. So they are sacrificing their freedom, and they are just living out, and they are just are being controlled by the whites. But why am up to? I'm not so virtuous enough, but I will be just claiming up my freedom. Then but I found that I could not even enjoy the poor and limited freedoms I was allowed when I knew my people were not free. And he was not at all able to take up his basic freedom where his people were not at all free enough. Freedom is indivisible. Yes, it cannot be divisible. The chains on any one of my people were the chains on all of them. So he says that nobody can be begged on with the chains, and nobody can be tied with the chains and say that to work only this in the restricted area, nobody remains the same. So he's just representing it as the blacks has been chained up by the white people. The chains on all my peoples were chained on me. So whatever the struggles and the troublesome which are faced by the Africans, those problems are being suffered by himself. So he thinks the whole nation and the whole people, the community of the people are his own, and he represents them as my people. I knew that the oppressors must be liberated just as surely as oppressed. A man who takes away another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. So he says very beautifully, a man who controls over and takes away the another man's freedom, he is equivalent to the prisoner of hatred, it seems. He is locked behind the bars of the prejudice. Prejudice is nothing but a strong dislike without any good reason. And a narrow mindedness, the fellow who will be very prejudiced and the mindedness, the narrow mindedness, whoever the fellow has these kinds of things in his head, he will be the real fellow who will be not be liberating the man who will be surrounding towards them. I am not truly free if I am taking away someone else's freedom. So just as surely I am not free when my freedom is taken from me. So unless my people are free, I am not a free man. So unless they are living a restricted life, I will also be in a restricted and the bars of the oppression over there. The oppressed and the oppressor alike are robbed of their humanity. Yes, the whites have robbed up their humanity, and they are just giving out only and showing up their cruelty. When for their cruelty, many of the Africans died so far. So this is up to your lesson. Nelson Mandela. So all these lessons, all this extraction that gives you out the information that how very painful struggle they have struggled to achieve up their freedom. So this is what the lesson is all about. Hope you all understand. So I'll be meeting you up in my next video. So till by then, please do revise the lessons and happy learning.